Hi, and welcome to Good Chats, a show meant to inspire hope, wellness, and gratitude, even in the midst of crisis. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Jenny Landon, the founder and executive director of Growing Out of Darkness. Our focus is to end stigma and save lives by changing the way we speak and think about mental health, as well as how we seek treatment for it. Before we get started, I'd like to say thank you to our gold and platinum sponsors, Shoreview Kowalski's, Alexander Plumbing, and Doug Desert Construction. Today's topic is going to be parenting and the importance of self-care. Now, this is an important topic for me personally, as I'm a mom of two beautiful girls. But I have to tell you that even though I was an aunt to many nieces and nephews, and I worked with kids throughout my college and professional career, I was not prepared for parenthood. I'm not sure anyone could be. But I especially wasn't prepared for those early months when I ended up experiencing postpartum depression and even became suicidal. I was fortunate that one night my husband came home from work and recognized that something wasn't right. And in that moment, I found the words to say to him, "I'm scared I'm going to die." Again, I was so blessed because 1, he understood what I was saying. 2, he knew to take me serious. And 3, he knew that acupuncture had helped me in the past when I had experienced panic attacks. He not only encouraged me to get acupuncture, he made sure that I received weekly acupuncture appointments until I was feeling better. And I have to say that without that, I don't know where I would be today. Joining me today as we talk about parenting and the importance of self-care, I have Shoma Hokanson, who is the mom of 2 and owner of Solera SelfCare. I also have Brandon Jones, a psychotherapist, professor, and author of Healing is a Journey. I want to thank both of you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I know both of you are parents,
Yep.
and you have also included self-care as part of your profession. Shoma, I want to start with you. What is it about self-care that you are so passionate about?
So first of all, thank you for having me on. It is so nice and exciting to talk about something that is so passionate to me. Self-care and parenting, both very near and dear to my heart because, as you know and just attested to, parenting is hard work.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it can bring some of life's most amazing joys. And some of the best memories we'll ever have will probably be with our kids. But at the same time, we can be exhausted from it. Sometimes it's horribly frustrating. Sometimes it's plain down infuriating, right? And so that's why I feel like taking the time for ourselves is so important just for our own sanity. Yeah. And I feel that by filling our cups first, we tend to be more patient and more generous to those around us, and we're better equipped to face life's challenges when they hit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brandon, I have to say, I'm so excited to have a husband and father, as well as what you do as a profession, working with families, here to share your experiences as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to share with us, why is self-care so important to you?
Yeah, self-care is important to me because without it, I don't know how I would survive as a father and a husband.
Yeah.
There are tons of challenges. A lot of times dads don't get to talk about our challenges that we have and our struggles that we have being parents. Me personally, I grew up in a household where my stepfather was kind of in and out, so I didn't really have a good role model for what a father was supposed to be. So being an adult and being a dad now, and having to pick up those pieces without a foundation, I'm kind of fathering without a foundation. So sometimes I scratch my head like, am I really doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I be saying this? But I know that it's important for me to be present, to make sure that my mindset is right and that my behaviors are right as well, because I have 2 daughters and they look up to me and I'm dad to them, and I can't allow my past to get in the way of their future.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Shoma, I know that you and I met a few years ago, and in that time, you've had a lot of transition as a parent and as a working mom, and then kind of taking a break from the corporate world. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how self-care played a role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had been a working mom from the beginning. So when my kids were first born, I had my 3 months maternity leave, and as soon as they hit those 3 months, they were in daycare. And it's funny, I remember still, dropping them off, giving, my kisses goodbye, getting to my desk and literally being like, oh, like it was almost a breath of fresh air and a relief just to, be at my desk, because those beginning years, I mean, they're tough. And, and every parent is different. I have friends who love those early years. I personally, my kids right now are 8 and 11 years old. I'm personally loving this stage. And so I worked for about 14 years before I decided that, you know what, I'm going to take an opportunity to take a break. I'm at the midpoint of my career. My kids are at a point that we're actually really enjoying each other's company. I have this opportunity to be even a better influence by being more present with them. And so I took 18 months off from corporate America. And it was awesome. It's not something that is, easily accessible for everyone. It definitely took a little bit of work to create the right exit plan for myself. But just having that time really helped me slow down and refocus on what is truly important in my life. And as I've shared with many folks and many friends who are surprised that I am back to work now, I am back in corporate America. I know what happened. I never thought I'd go back, but what I realized as part of the self-care is that self-care, it's not hyped up as bubble baths and massages and pedicures all the time, right? There's an emotional and a spiritual and a mental aspect to it as well. And during that time off, I really had time to dive into each of those and look at what brings fulfillment to me. Spending time with my kids is fulfilling when we're off doing fun new activities and new adventures and exploring new cities. Yes, that is extremely fulfilling, but I'll be the first to admit, making dinner for them, not fulfilling, because they never appreciate a single thing I make, and getting them out the door to school, not fulfilling. And even though I got to spend more time with my kids, I found out that, things that do bring me fulfillment are, team aspects of, working in a job and actually, creating, a PowerPoint that I have to eventually present. I mean, having those milestones that you have in a corporate job. And so for me, during that self-reflection, I realized that I do enjoy working. And for me, it was the balance between being a mom and having a full-time job.
Yeah.
That's incredible, which I know we've talked about, that struggle between parents who stay home. And I say parents, not just moms, but parents who stay home versus parents who work. And I am actually going to just totally go out right now and say that for my own self-care, I need to address the fact that our clock is not working. Right there is not working. So I have no idea how much time we have left. But in any case, but I do know that for a lot of parents, that is a struggle over what's right, what isn't right, where should I be? And for me, I needed to be a stay-at-home mom, right? But I had other friends who they could not. Right. They needed to be working, and and my husband's philosophy was always happy wife, happy life. But as a stay-at-home mom, there were times where I needed that outside connection. Yep. And it was a struggle to not have that. And then I know that once my girls got to a certain age, I needed fulfillment beyond being a stay-at-home mom. Right. And that's really when I started, branching out and getting involved with creating Growing Out of Darkness. And Brandon, I know for you, your wife recently made a change as well. And how's that been for you guys in your household?
It's been interesting. I haven't had the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom myself, but my wife has, and she's been a stay-at-home mom for about 5 months now. And it's been kind of a struggle. She's worked all her life since she was about 16 years old, and this is the first time where she doesn't have to go to work. And I think this summer was a huge test, being with both of our children. We have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. over the whole summer, every day, planning things, going to the children's museum, doing all these things, I think it kind of wore her out. It was more work than she expected. So her own self-care has been challenged, and me being her partner and figuring out ways to support her, listening to the things that she needs, paying attention to her body language was a huge thing too. It's like, yeah, I don't think you're really doing as well as you're saying. Maybe you need some of your own time, and then helping provide that space. So if mom needs us all out of the house for 4 hours so she can kind of do her thing, or she needs to leave, making sure that we create that space so that she is taking care of herself. So it's been an adjustment. And I think it's a hard thing for a lot of people, because oftentimes when people transition from working full-time to not working, they don't realize how isolating that might be. And no one wants to sit at home talking to a 6-year-old all day. Like, that can drive someone insane, right? So, so it's interesting to hear you say, I'm enjoying this stage, because that stage might look different if these are smaller children, or if these are, or even if they're adolescents and they don't want to, connect with you at all, right? So I think it kind of depends on where people are at and how they feel.
I need to meet your wife, because I feel like we are going to have so many notes and can commiserate on so many things.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think, I haven't met her, but I think we can both agree on those golden nugget moments that you do have with your kids at home do make it worthwhile.
Absolutely.
But you're absolutely right that there is positives and there's things that you don't prepare for.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel like the thing that really struck me listening to you is what an amazing support system you are to your wife. And I think that is such a critical component to self-care, is having a very robust support system around you and having the courage to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah.
Just like, what
vital.
you did, Jenny, with Chris. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another piece of self-care too, to segue, is a piece that a lot of us struggle with, which is learning how to say no. And maybe how to say no nicely or not so nicely, so that people actually believe you when you say no. But I know that's been an important part of your journey as well, Shoma, and that it was an important piece that you wanted to talk about. You want to go deeper on that?
Yeah, I absolutely would love to, because I really suffered from saying yes too many times. In fact, I recently discovered a quote. It has become my mantra, from Derek Sievers. He says, no more yes. It's either a hell yeah or a no. And a hell yeah with hands up in the air.
Yeah, with your hands up,
And I love that. And granted, it's a little tongue-in-cheek. You have to take it with a grain of salt, because you can't say no to everything. Otherwise, my kids wouldn't get to have their activities. But every time an opportunity or something came my way where I felt like, well, I should volunteer for this activity, or I should do some work for the PTA, or I should spend some more hours doing that. Every time a should came into my mind, it was a red flag that I'm about to do something not because I want to, but because an outside pressure is influencing me to do so. And so that red flag always made me kind of take a pause and step back and reassess, am I doing this for myself, or am I doing it for somebody else? And so, I think, and you'll have to comment on this, Brandon, I think women in general have a little bit of a harder time saying no, because, we're the nurturers and whatnot. I think women have a fear of disappointing others. In fact, I call disappointment a disease to constantly please, right?
Nice.
There's a fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or how someone else is going to react when you say no to them. Sometimes it's the inability to receive support. There's that internal voice, telling you, do I really deserve this? And then there's just the fear of being judged or criticized. Sometimes for some, asking for help may be viewed as a weakness. And so I think kind of coming from that point and understanding some of the reasons that we have that fear, it helps you overcome that, like, no, I don't want to live with that fear. And I am going to say no when it's right for me. And so it's not easy. It takes practice.
It's not easy. And I will say that I have learned over the years to not let fear make my decisions,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm making a decision based out of fear, it is the wrong decision. I need to be making a decision based on what it is I'm wanting to achieve, what is it I'm wanting to grow into, you know, and I think it's really important that we are paying attention to that, and it's hard because I think that there are obligations that we have to our children, that we do show up and we are present for helping out with the soccer team or the school event. Mind you, both of my children's schools know that I can no longer participate because of my own need for self-care.
Right.
Because I get too invested and too passionate and then too frustrated.
Right.
And you know, and so that's just something that I've learned about myself. That is a place where I've learned to say, you know what, for 10 years, I gave and gave 100%. And now I'm going to let somebody else do that. And I will show up day of and help when I can, but I can't be on the back end planning everything, you know? But you know, I think really being true to what you're capable of doing, when it's the right time, you know, who you're doing it for, all of those things are really important.
And what you just demonstrated there is setting boundaries, right? I can do this, but I can't do that. And I think that is so important. And the thing is, most people will respect that. It's more of just our internal mind worrying what the other person is going to think, or, you know, fear of disappointment again. So.
And I think setting those boundaries is extremely important because what it does is it makes us be more proactive. And a lot of times self-care can be seen as more reactive. And yes, you will have reactions, things are going to happen, you know, the kids are going to do something that's going to throw you up the wall. But what's key is that you already have your your self-care practices already in place so that those emotional reactions aren't as severe and significant. So those boundaries are good, making sure that those boundaries are clear, making sure that you have the skill set to communicate those boundaries are all going to help you maintain your self-care.
Yeah, that's great.
No, I will say too, as you mentioned, that Brandon seems to be a great support to his wife. I guess we'll have to check with her to see her thoughts. But and I know I'm fortunate to have a great support from my husband, and what I'm really fortunate to have is a great support of people who will reach out, you know, and just say, hey, you should try this. But one of those people actually was a colleague of my husband's who knew that we had moved several times, that things had been hard with one of our previous moves, and the fact was that my husband and I were struggling. And I was kind of surprised that he had opened up and that she knew, but she had recommended a book called The 5 Love Languages. And that book has made such an impression on me, not just in my relationship with my husband, but my relationship with my children, my relationship with the people I'm working with, and just that being in tune, like when you were talking about body language earlier, it's that being in tune with what does my significant other really hear from me or feel from me? You know, am I demonstrating my love to them in a way that they can receive it? And I think just, you know, that is one form of self-care is being in tune with that. What would you guys, if you were giving tips on, you know, various methods, because as I said, acupuncture was huge for me. Not everyone has acupuncture readily available. I don't even have it always readily available. So what are some other forms of self-care that someone could easily learn more about or try to implement either at least once a week or every day if they could? I mean, what are some of your favorites?
I can start.
Okay, go.
Brandon's like,
I've got so many, but you go.
Well, one of the things I try to encourage people to do, whether that's from a coaching angle or a therapy angle or even family-related things, is scheduling intentional time with yourself. Some people call it me time, but something where it's like every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, I'm going to watch this show because it's the show I like to watch. I don't have to think, and I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this cooking show. That's important because what you're doing is you're setting a date and time and space for yourself. A lot of people don't do that, especially parents. It's always go, go, go. You are usually captive to your children's schedule and not your own, but finding that kind of space for yourself is important. I think the other thing is finding support. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but who are your supports that are going to help you get through this time? Who can you talk to? It can be something online, it can be something in person, but who can you connect with that understands what you're going through and can assist you? So those would be two that I would throw out there.
Those are fantastic, Landon. Yeah, I love me time.
Yeah.
I love it. It's my favorite. I mean, just going to a coffee shop with a book or taking time to journal, that's, just one of my favorite things to do. So from a physical self-care standpoint, again, I think most people, this is where they tend to go when they think self-care. And it's legit. Get a massage, get a pedicure. Take that time. And, physical self-care is also about taking care of your body, eating nourishing foods, hydrating, getting enough sleep. I am guilty of going to sleep way too late every night because I like my me time at night when everyone's in bed. So it's kind of a conflict that we're figuring out. But that physical self-care is important, but that mental and emotional and spiritual self-care is just as important, whether it's just taking time to walk around in nature, no matter what season it is here in Minnesota, even just a brisk walk in the middle of winter will do wonders for your mental state. And then taking time to do something creative, whether it's writing, drawing, singing, dancing. What were you passionate about when you were 10 years old? Well, you probably still have that same passion deep within you somewhere. Pull that out and, enjoy that again. And then I love doing this and recommending to people, take a class. Even as an adult, we may have been out of school for years, but taking a class and keeping our brain sharp and those neurons or whatever that are in there firing, I think that is so important. And it is considered self-care for sure.
One of the best classes I ever took, and probably one of the funniest classes, was at Normandale Community College. I was about 30 years old, had 2 little ones at home, and I was fascinated with Tai Chi. So I took their Tai Chi for arthritis class because it was Saturday morning at, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. It worked for my schedule. And I walked in the door and everyone gasped. And they were all so concerned that I had arthritis at a very young age. And, but I did not, and it was cute and it was funny, but I honestly, I grew so much in that class, and I learned that I had the same results from doing Tai Chi that I did from getting acupuncture. But the difference was I got to do it in my own home, in my own space. If I was on vacation, I could do it. And I loved it, but I agree that that taking the classes are huge, and we should never stop learning. I think that's another really important piece of self-care, is just keeping that going. I also think, picking back on something that you said about the me time, please make sure you choose a me time that your body is going to agree with. For quite a while, my me time was at 4:30 in the morning so that I would have time to do everything else afterward, and I completely burned out. So be mindful of that. So we are wrapping up. We're coming to an end of our 30 minutes, thanks to Tim, our clock over there. And so Shoma, I want to hand it over to you. Like, if you were going to give one more, final tip, what would it be?
Start now. Start right away. Don't let yourself fall into the trap of thinking, I'll do some self-care, I'll think about it this weekend or next week when I have more time. Self-care is not about a to-do list, it's a way of being. So just dive in. So tomorrow, even if it's just 5 minutes, again, those ideas that we've had, take time to do that, because it is a practice. And I feel like once we get into a practice of honoring ourselves, our body, and our mind with self-care, it becomes more of a habit. And then we realize in times of crisis, these self-care tactics are the ones that ground me the most. And so it's nice to have those go-tos. And then also, if anyone, I'm looking at our studio audience here, if anyone is interested in talking more about self-care conceptually, I am holding some workshops this fall and would love for anyone to join me. Dates and locations are on my website, SOLERA, soleraselfcare.com.
Nice. And we will also have everyone posted on our website at growingoutofdarkness.org. And so if you guys have any questions, you can also go there to get information about each of our guests from every episode. And then Brandon, do you have one last quick?
Absolutely. I think for my last kind of tidbit would be to ask for what you need, or if you're a little bit more feisty, take what you need, right? Take
There
what
you
you
go.
need so that you get your self-care practices in place and you build healthy habits so that you're good.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here and joining me today. I also want to take a minute to thank all of our sponsors who helped make this show possible, especially Kowalski's in Shoreview. I want to thank our audience, both here in the studio and for all of you who are viewing either online or at home. We hope that you'll join us for our next episode of Good Chats. And until then, please be good to yourself and to others.